words of Montesquieu, there is no liberty unless the legislative, executive, and judiciary branches are separate. This idea, expressed by the celebrated oracle, was adopted by founding father James Madison and is reflected in the Constitution. Madison believed that a separation of power was necessary in order to create the purest form of government.
In Federalist 51, Madison explains that ambition must be made to counteract ambition, showing the founding fathers' desire to not allow a dominant sector of government. With each branch struggling to gain more power, a constant check by the others would lead to a balance overall.
The first three articles of the Constitution outline the powers specifically given to the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Outlining these powers was an attempt to prevent an over-centralized government like Britain, where the colonists felt like outsiders.
For instance, while only Congress can declare war, only the President can negotiate treaties to end war. In Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, express powers given to the legislative branch are found in Article 1, Section 8, including the power of the purse and the commerce power.
Lastly, Article 3 vests the judicial power in one Supreme Court. While Madison strongly believed in separation of powers, he ultimately saw some wisdom in some interconnectedness of the branches.
Provisions found in the Constitution create this system of checks and balances, which keeps different portions of the government in their places. Powers specifically given to each branch through the Constitution intertwine, allowing the branches to limit themselves as they struggle to limit each other as they struggle to gain power for themselves.
For example, although the President has the power to veto a bill passed by the legislative branch, Congress can override that veto with a 2/3 vote. But even after this, the judicial branch is still able to declare the law in question unconstitutional through judicial review.
The separation of powers does not only extend to laws. The President is given the power to appoint in Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, but such appointments need to be approved with a 2/3 vote in the Senate. Some of these appointments are for Supreme Court justices, which gives the other two branches some supervision over the judicial branch.
In order to ensure these checks remain intact, Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution states that no person can concurrently reside in multiple branches. It is clear that all the powers are meant to intertwine, but the Supreme Court rulings have overseen for such checks and balances.
Hamilton famously stated in Federalist 78 that the judicial branch will always be the least dangerous because it has no power to enforce its decisions and must wait to be brought cases. However, the judicial branch's job of interpreting the law under the Constitution is necessary to the concept of separation of powers.
The roots of judicial review can be found in Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. The Supreme Court first demonstrated this power to declare laws passed by Congress and acts of the executive unconstitutional in the case Marbury v. Madison in 1803. Since then, many decisions have limited and extended the powers of the other two branches.
For example, in the case Clinton v. City of New York, the Supreme Court decided that the Line Item Veto Act, which allowed the President to veto specific provisions of a bill without canceling the entire law, was unconstitutional. This decision was based upon the fact that the line item veto would essentially alter the process of a bill becoming a law, as outlined by Article 1, Section 7, Clause 2 of the Constitution.
INS v. Chadha is a key case that held that Congress does not have the power to veto actions taken by the President. Judicial review has limited the expansion of congressional power through the Commerce Clause in the case U.S. v. Lopez. In other cases, however, such as Hardbett-Lamb v. U.S., the Supreme Court has actually expanded congressional power.
While the power of judicial review has been imperative in the success of separation of powers, the fears Hamilton voiced in Federalist 78 came true when Andrew Jackson ignored the ruling of the Supreme Court in Worcester v. Georgia, resulting in the infamous Trail of Tears.
Overall, we do agree with Madison that it is necessary to separate the powers of government for our protection. When a power is too centralized, there is a tyrannical form of government as a result. This concludes our statement, and we're ready for your questions.